Hi, I'm Selena from Annie's Bookstop of Worcester, and I'm here with Rick Bleiweiss, who has been in the music industry for quite some time in his career, and now he has written a book. And Rick, if you can explain a little bit about the book that you've written.
Sure, be glad to. The book is called PIGNON, SCORBION, and the Barbershop Detectives, and it's kind of a fun throwback classic historical mystery thriller, kind of an homage, if you will, to Agatha Christie's Hercule Poirot and to Sherlock Holmes. And it takes place in the countryside, England in 1910, featuring a police inspector, Pignon Scorbion, who comes to town, and because he has a previous friendship with the town barber, he starts solving his cases in the barber shop, and he is assisted by a colorful group of characters: the barbers, the shoe shine man, a reporter for a local newspaper, a brilliant, beautiful female bookstore owner. And he's very Poirot-like. He's very deductive and observational. And I just want people to have fun with the book. If they like that classic type of, writing that's, not gory, but more fun to read, I think they'll enjoy the book. That's what it's about.
So it's kind of more like a cozy mystery in a sense.
Well, it is. I would say there are certainly cozy elements to it, without a doubt. Yes, yes.
Mhm. I just have to ask you this question. Where did you come up with the name?
Pignon Scorbion?
Yes.
Actually, it came up through research. If you don't mind me telling a short story about how I came up with the names.
Yeah, sure.
I the way I write is that things just come to me. I mean, a lot of creative people, they just get inspiration and it's there. And that's how this book started. And it just came to me that he should have ancestry so that his father was Egyptian and his mother was Haitian. Can't tell you why. I just said, let's do it. And so I knew I needed names that fit that ancestry. And at the same time, I wanted a name that people might remember. I didn't want it to be John Smith, nothing against any John Smiths in the world, but I kind of wanted it like Hercule Poirot, Sherlock Holmes. They're not your run of the mill name, if you will. Mm-hmm. So I started researching his family name, and I started looking at what were popular Arabic and Egyptian names. And I came upon the name Scorbion. And I really liked it for two reasons. One, it's like scorpion, the scorpion. So it was familiar sounding as opposed to foreign sounding. And at the same time, the name stands for adventurousness, entrepreneurship. And those were the traits of his father, which are detailed in the book. As far as his first name, Pignon, his father traveled, again in the book, his father travels to Haiti where he meets his mother, Pignon's mother, and she lives in a valley in Haiti called Pignon. There's really a valley and a mountain called Pignon in Haiti. And so I just thought it'd be cool to name him after where they met. And I liked the way Pignon and Scorbion went together. And that's how it came out.
Interesting. But I guess my question was what kind of research went into writing this book. So that's part of it. But what else did you have to research for this book?
Mostly everything.
That's what it sounded like. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I have one character who speaks French, and while I have a passing knowledge of French, I really had to research a lot of the French language and speaking. I had to research popular names of the era. I mean, it takes place in the Downton Abbey era, if you will. So not the names today aren't necessarily the same names from back then. So I had to research names. I wanted the book to feel real to people. So it's peppered with real life events. And I needed to research all of those events. I needed to research the way people spoke in England in that era. There's almost nothing in the book that wasn't researched. I did one of the segments in the book begins with a scene in the American Wild West with settlers and indigenous Americans. And I had to research all of that as well to make sure that I was doing justice to both sides of that equation. So really, I had no idea how much research I was going to have to do when I started writing this book, but I wanted it to feel real, and you can't make it feel real if you make mistakes and aren't real.
Mm-hmm. So what was the actual inspiration for the book?
There was no specific inspiration for the book itself other than the fact that I have been a mystery reader my whole life. I mean, I think I started with the Hardy Boys, and and I read every one of the Sherlock Holmes stories and novels. I think that Poirot, there have been like 33 novels. I think I've read 30 of them, maybe all 33, not to mention the short stories, Miss Marple, Nero Wolfe, Ellery Queen, you name it, I've read them. I love the genre. And I decided one day, I want to try my hand at writing a mystery. And I thought, because my writing style, I've done some nonfiction writing for newspapers and magazines, and I find that I write that kind of nonfiction better than gory, hardcore thriller fiction. And so I tried to write this in almost a nonfiction style, and it just came out. The inspiration just came to me one day.
Okay. Now, what do you think draws readers to these kinds of books?
Well, I think people like a good mystery. In my book, there were 3 of them, 3 cases that are solved by Scorbion and his assistant, barbershop assistants. I think people like a good mystery. They like to see if they can kind of figure it out as they're going along and be baffled, and then have the aha, why didn't I think of that, when the protagonist does solve it. In the case of my book, which is sort of like a cozy, old style, fun classic whodunit, I just think they like to be entertained. It doesn't. We have enough stress in the world right now, and I think people need an escape, and this type of a book, I think, gives them an escape.
That is true. What was the biggest challenge that you had in putting out your newest book, and how did you overcome that challenge?
Well, the biggest challenge was all the research I did, but beyond the research, I think the biggest challenge was putting enough red herrings in the book so that it wasn't obvious. Well, two. So it wasn't obvious that what was happening and who did what to who. And at the same time, that it wasn't so buried that people said to themselves, well, how would I have ever known that? So really the challenge was I had to keep going back and back and back. And every time I'd write a scene, I'd go back and adjust prior scenes to make sure that they gave enough clues, but not too many clues, so that everything held together and challenged the reader without stumping them.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, was there one particular character that you loved or hated the most in this book?
I think there are 2 that I loved the most. Scorbion himself. I just loved writing him. I loved taking my wits and applying them to him. I just liked him as a character. The other character I really loved writing was Thelma Smith, the bookstore owner, because I've written her as a progressive, unconventional woman ahead of her times, a leader in the women's suffragette movement, an intellect, a reader, beautiful but brilliant. And I have always loved strong women, and I just love the fact that I got to write one.
Ah, that's great. So what else can we expect from you in the future? Are there going to be more Scorbion books?
Well, yeah, there are 2 things, actually. First, there is a second Pignon Scorbion book that's tentatively titled Murder in Haxford, Haxford being the town where all the action takes place. That's already written. I'm going through it now, doing my preliminary edits, and then it will be turned into Blackstone for full, editing, developmental editing. And that's scheduled to come out a year from this month. And the second, and I'm hoping that these are the first two books of many in a series, featuring the characters, and the whole cast of characters continue. And then secondarily, I have a short story coming in a mystery anthology that's publishing in May called Hotel California. And my story is a contemporary story about a New York City hitman who has a hit put on his life and escapes to Maui, and it's the cat and mouse game between him and the hitman sent after him. And that book has stories, a brand new Jack Reacher story by Andrew Child. It's got Heather Graham, Amanda Flower, tons of I'm leaving really good authors out who are in that book. And that's the first in a series of murder and music books that I will have stories in.
Wonderful. That sounds great. So I have some questions about being a writer. So
Sure.
what is your favorite part of being a writer on the whole writing and publishing process?
As a writer, really, I'm not joking, my favorite part is writing. Mm-hmm. And the reason it's writing is because I get immersed in the world of the characters, and they become my friends, and they become alive to me. And so I have two realities going on in my life, my real reality and my book reality. And I love that. And they play out in my head like a movie. And it's my job to capture for the reader what I'm seeing in my head. And that's what I love about writing. And the other thing I love about writing is when people get enjoyment from what I've written.
Absolutely. So what do you consider the most challenging part of the writing process?
Well, to me, the most challenging part is the occasional writer's block, where I will come to a part in the story and I'll go, wow, I've got to figure out how I communicate what was done here, but not give it away. And I sometimes will go, I'm not sure how I'm going to get there. And so what I'll do then is maybe stop for even up to a month, and it'll keep playing in my brain until one day, boom, it snaps in and I've got the answer. And then I pick up and write again. That to me is the hardest part of writing.
Yeah, I think most people actually have that, don't they? Most writers. Yeah.
Yeah, and some people worse than others. I think I'm fortunate that I don't get it often. And when I get it, it seems to disappear pretty quickly. I know other writers that just get stymied by it, and I feel badly for them.
I think some people just go on to a different project and then go back to the one that they were writing. So
I've done that. I wrote two novels that didn't get published before I wrote Scorbion. One was science fiction and one was a magical realism story. And one of those, I did that. In fact, I started Scorbion when I was in writer's block for one of those others.
So what has been your favorite adventure during your writing career?
Well, my favorite adventure during my writing career, can we include a science fiction rock opera that I wrote?
Yes, absolutely.
Well, back in the early 70s, a bandmate of mine and he was the lead guitarist in my band, I was the bass player, we co-wrote a science fiction rock opera. And we were managed by a man named Sid Bernstein, who's the man who brought the Beatles to America and the Rolling Stones to America. And the rock opera was going to be produced by John McClure, who was Leonard Bernstein's producer. And we had everything going for us. And we had tremendous interest in the rock opera. And one day, Sid calls me and he says, Robert Stigwood is interested in the rock opera. Now, Robert Stigwood, I don't know if you're familiar with him, but he's an impresario. He actually managed the Bee Gees, Eric Clapton. He did Saturday Night Fever, Grease, and he produced plays. And he was interested in turning my rock opera into a play. And Sid said to me, there's only one catch, and the catch is he's got another play, rock opera play, that he's considering, and he's deciding which one is he going to do. Well, needless to say, he chose the other, and the other was Evita.
Oh, wow. That is quite a story. Whoa. Whew, that's quite a competition.
You know, I must say, if you don't mind me diverting here.
No, go right ahead.
You know, that's kind of an example of something I've done my whole life. And that is, I've always chased the pot of gold at the end of rainbows, my whole life. I mean, I find chasing the rainbows as much fun as finding the pot of gold. Sometimes I've found it. I've produced hit records. I produced records that were Grammy nominated. And sometimes I've done total busts. I did a venture where I put people's names up on lights on Broadway on this huge digital sign on Broadway so you could wish someone happy birthday and it'd be on Broadway. That was an abysmal failure. But the most important thing was I find that it keeps life interesting and stimulating to keep chasing your dreams. And I'm 77 and I'm having my first novel published. I mean, I want to be an inspiration to other seniors, you know, that you're never too old to try something new. And at every age, you should be chasing your dreams.
That's wonderful advice. And actually, that was one question I was going to ask you is what piece of advice would you want to share with others?
Well, that would be the main piece of advice. And if we're talking about writers, I would certainly share one other piece of advice, and that is don't let any bad reviews or anything like that get you down, because not everybody's going to love everything. I mean, books and musical artists and authors have been turned down by publishers that became huge successes. Books that became huge successes were panned by critics. And I think it's important to focus on the positives in life, not the negatives.
Absolutely. And so it kind of related to that is, what's the greatest lesson that you've learned thus far in your writing career?
Perseverance. I really, I mean, it's like, if people want to be writers, they need to write. I don't care what you're writing. Write for magazines, write short stories, write for newspapers, write books, write online, blog, but write. If you're going to be a writer, write. That to me is one of the main things I've learned. Mm-hmm. I wrote my first thing when I was 12 years old. I wrote a sports newspaper. I made 4 Mimeo copies of it and sold them to my neighbors. Then I wrote a play when I was 15. You know, I've written my whole life, but different things. And I just, you got to keep writing, because eventually you'll hone your craft and you'll score.
That's really excellent advice. Yep. Now, are there any other groups or organizations or clubs that you recommend to other writers that have helped you with your career?
Well, the first thing I would say is, to any writer, find the organizations that apply to the genre you're writing in and go to their conferences and conventions. Go to Thriller Fest, go to the Romance Writers if you're association meetings, if you're a romance writer. I mean, that's where you're going to meet people. That's where you're going to make connections, network, where you'll start getting known. I think that's really important. In my life, the Mystery Writers America, International Thriller Writers, I'm a member of the Pacific Northwest Writers Association, the Historical Novel Society. I mean, I just think it's important to be part of organizations because you'll help them and they'll help you. I would also say this, I am a huge supporter of independent bookstores such as yours. I was a huge supporter of independent record stores when I was in the music industry. And I have a page on my website that lists 1,300 independent bookstores in America with their contact info sorted by state so people can find ones near them, or if they're traveling, they could find ones near where they are, because I think for the health of the literary industry and literature, independent bookstores are really critical. And so independent bookstores so far have been huge supporters of mine. I mean, my book, Scorbion, was voted the Buzz Book by the Pacific Northwest Booksellers Association. I was there. I can't tell you how important that was to me.
Mm-hmm. I can imagine. That's great. Well, thank you for doing that.
Well, it's really
very
important.
Yeah, it really is. Now, I have some questions about you as a person.
Sure.
What is one thing that most people don't realize about you?
What is something people don't realize about me? Well, I guess for one thing, what they don't realize is that I'm an inherently shy human being who has overcome that. Let me put it that way. I mean, I'm gregarious but shy, and I just realized at one point in my life being shy doesn't do much for you.
That is very true. And it's amazing how many authors have told me that they're shy.
I think it's absolutely true.
It goes with the territory, I think.
It does. Well, I like to think I've overcome it, but time will tell.
I would think so. I mean, if you look at your wall and see all of these plaques, you would imagine you would have to have overcome it. All right. Another question is, what are your passions, or are your passions when you're not writing?
Well, my first passion is still music. I have a home studio next to me. Here you can't see them, but I have, guitars, basses, a MIDI keyboard, a computer dedicated to recording. And I'm still writing and recording songs. I have a secondary music website. You can link to it from my main website, my author website, where I've got new stuff I've written, old songs I've produced. I'm working with a couple of different singers. So really, music and books are my two passions. Obviously, I read quite a bit, but part of why I read a lot is I also work for a publishing company. And so I have a lot of books that get submitted to me to read. So I'm constantly reading, and some good, most good actually, some not, but so I read a lot. I have a dog who I just absolutely adore, not to mention my wife, who I adore. But, I had to say that or she'd be jealous of the dog. And I don't know, other than that, I like movies a lot. I watch a lot of movies. And movies, I happen to be a sci-fi fan. So I love a lot. I mean, I like good mystery too. I'm a huge BritBox fan, and their mysteries, Death in Paradise, and,
one of my favorites.
Shakespeare and Hathaway. And, I mean, there's a lot of them that I really love. So that's kind of what I do. And, with COVID, it's really kind of housebound me, if you will. So things that I might do outside, I love traveling, but that's not on the table right now.
Understood. So what does your writing space look like? And what do you need to have around you when you're writing or editing?
Actually, I'm going to answer it in the reverse. What's not around me, and what's not around me is everything. I write in total quiet. I can't have music playing. I can't have distractions going. I sit at a desk either in my bedroom or in my office with my laptop computer, and I just write. As I said, it plays out in my head like a movie. So I can't be distracted. I have to see that movie and capture it. So my writing space is very Spartan and it's very quiet.
Mm-hmm. And do you have any food or drink that you like to have with you?
Occasionally a glass of water, but generally I'll write for maybe an hour to 2 hours, take a break, take a snack, take a drink, go back, write. There are days I'll write 8 hours at a time with some breaks. And there are days I'll write an hour and go, okay, that's enough for today. But as long I set goals for myself in terms of number of words I want to write a week and a month, as opposed to a day. So as long as I'm hitting those goals, it's immaterial to me how many I write in a day, because I know if I don't write enough in one day, I'll pick it up the next.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And writers often have furry or feathered or otherwise non-human companions. And you said you have a dog that you adore.
Yes.
Does your dog help you or hinder you when you're writing? Or is he locked away from you?
Well, it's a she.
Okay.
Her name's Gracie. She's a
Oh.
Havanese, and no, she's never locked away when I'm writing. And it's both. Oftentimes, especially if I'm writing at the desk in the bedroom, she'll just be lying on the bed, doing snoozing or doing her thing while I'm writing. And there'll be times she will come up to me and she'll start nudging me and she'll want to go out and I'll have to take a break in the action. So it's a little bit of both.
Yes. Okay.
I'll tell you a cute story if you don't mind.
No,
Um,
please.
I don't know how many people remember Gracie Allen, George Burns and Gracie Allen.
Yep.
But when we got Gracie, our dog Gracie, we decided to name her Gracie in tribute to them, so that when we go to sleep at night, we can say to her, "Say goodnight, Gracie," which is what the end of their skit always used to be. And that's how we named her Gracie.
What kind of dog is she again?
Havanese.
Oh,
Are you familiar with those?
no.
A short thing on Havanese. Havanese originated as circus dogs in Spain. And then when Spain conquered Cuba, they brought the Havanese dogs with them. They were named something else at the time. And they gave them to the wealthy landed families in Cuba as like gifts of the conquerors to the conquered. And when the wealthy families started leaving Cuba and coming to the United States, they brought their dogs with them, and they were named Havanese after Havana. It's Havana with an ESC at the end. And they are now a registered AKC breed here in the US, and they virtually disappeared in Cuba.
Interesting.
And they're sort of in the Bichon Frise family.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. I just have two more questions for you. Where can people find your work aside from Annie's Bookstop of Worcester? And I always have to take a little time to plug Annie's, because I have to. And anyway, you can always get Rick's book at Annie's. You can call us at 508-796-5613, or you can send email to orders@anniesbooksworcester.com. And you can always order Rick's book from us. And where else could people find your book?
I would say pretty much anywhere. I mean, it's virtually every online site that sells books is carrying it. In addition to many, many, many of the independent bookstores across the country, chain bookstores are carrying it as well. The big box stores are selling it online. So I think most anywhere, and I would say if anybody's listening that wants to buy it from Annie's, you should, for sure. And if for any reason you're in a different area and you want to get it locally, if they're not carrying it, tell them to get it.
Right. Good point. And my last question is, how can we follow your work and share your awesomeness?
Well, thank you. My website is www.rickbleiweiss.com, RickBleiweiss.com. I am on Facebook, Rick Bleiweiss Author. I'm on Twitter, Rick Bleiweiss. I'm on Instagram, Rick Bleiweiss Author. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Pinterest. I'm on TikTok. But I would encourage people to go to my website and sign up for my newsletter, because you'll get all the other links there, including an email. And if people want to email me, I will be happy to email them back. And my email address is right there on my website.
Wonderful.
And I would like to say one other thing if we have time.
Yeah, absolutely.
And this is all on the website, so it'd be interesting for people, if they're interested, to go there. But we've done some interesting things with the launch of the book that's not necessarily typical for what publishers do. I mean, we have a video trailer of the book that I think plays really well, and I happened to narrate it. I didn't know I was going to, but I did, and that you can find that on the website. I have a YouTube channel. You can find that there. I have created a video game, a PIGNON SCORBION Find the Hidden Objects video game, which is in both the Apple and the Google App Stores. And people can play it. It's a fun game that ties into the book, where you're finding elements that are in the stories in the book, and it's free. There's no charge for it. But there is a hitch, and the hitch is there are 6 levels. The first 4 are free, and to unlock the last 2, you have to put an unlock code. And where do you find the unlock code? It's printed in the book, the ebook, and in the audiobook. So we want people to get the book to play the rest of the game.
Just the ebook and the audiobook?
And the print book.
Oh, and the print book.
All of them, absolutely. And we're doing t-shirts. We're going to start selling Scorbion t-shirts. And I did a t-shirt for my dog, and that's gotten a lot of response on social media, and people have asked if we can do those. So we're just doing some really fun stuff. It's the whole idea. It's a book to have fun with, and we're having fun with it.
That sounds great. I love it. That's wonderful. Well, I hope you do well with the book. I really do. It sounds like it's a great, fun thing to read.
Well, hope so. The reviews so far have been really, really good. So I hope they continue. Here's what it looks like.
Great.
PIGNON SCORBION and the Barbershop Detectives. And I love the cover personally. I loved what the artist did for the cover, and I hope other people like it too.
Great. Well, thank you so much for being with us, Rick. And hopefully next time you get to the Boston area, I'm not sure where you are calling from.
I'm in Southern Oregon.
Southern Oregon. Oh, one of my
favorites. But I must tell you, I have been to Worcester. In fact, I played in Worcester when I was in bands.
Okay. So you know where we are.
Oh yes, many years ago, many decades ago, but I've been there and I've played music there.
Well, next time you get here, maybe you'll stop in at our store.
Of course I will. Absolutely.
Well, thanks again. It was great to have you.
And thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Okay. Bye then.
Bye-bye.